Hello, welcome to the Villa Talks podcast. Yes, we're back. Another week, another Villa game, the pre-match social, joined this week by the illustrious Dan Bardell. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. You're going to be in a little bit of trouble, aren't you? Using that badge in the background. Chris Heck might come after you for using his IP.
Oh, really?
I was just laughing at all the different badges we've had over the last
Yeah. Do you know
last
what? I was
5
just
years
looking
as that
through
video
that.
played.
I need to update that video, by the way. I've not done it for a while. I've got about 15 different backgrounds here ready to go, and it's all. I think there's about 4 different badges there.
Yeah, mate. I know.
But yeah, it is. Look, we can cycle through them. Look, we got this one. We got this one. We got this one.
What's
We
that?
got this one. It's all different, mate. All different.
Okay, nice.
Ready for every occasion.
Yeah, you've got enough to choose from anyway, so you'll be okay.
How are you, mate? How's things?
I'm good. Good. Obviously enjoying the on the pitch ride that is Aston Villa at the moment. I absolutely loving it, and like, well, I was going to say like everyone else, but it isn't everyone else when you look at it on social media. Dismayed by a lot of the stuff that I see off the pitch, but we're not here to talk about that, so I won't bore people.
No, we will do a pod about off the pitch stuff. We're not averse to discussing that on this podcast,
No.
and we won't pull any punches. And we try and get a balance of views as well, because there's some people who don't sit on the same side of the fence as we do. Let's say that, but we're trying to bring the podcast back on a more regular basis. I've talked about before, so please do subscribe and like the video and put those post notifications on if you're interested in listening to this podcast and you like what you hear today. But yeah, this week we're very much discussing the Ipswich game. That's where our focus is. I'll get Dan's thoughts initially on how he feels about the season so far, and obviously this week with the Wolves game and Ipswich game, we didn't manage to do a pod this week due to personal circumstances I won't go into, but we'll touch on that quickly. But then we'll look forward to the Ipswich game, and I've got a little bit of a quiz for Dan as well, a little bit of a trivia, something we do on this podcast on a regular basis called the Villa Vault that Sam normally does, but I'm gonna quiz Dan and see what his knowledge is like. I know his knowledge on Aston Villa kits and numbers and squad numbers is pretty epic, but let's see how his memories of past Villa games. So before we delve into the Ipswich game, Dan, how you feeling about Villa in general? Obviously, I know you've been on lots of podcasts and talking about it on things like Talk Sport, On the Ball, Sky Sports, etc. But just for our viewers and listeners, how you feeling about Villa at the moment?
Really good. I think we're in a really strong position. I think the club navigated the summer pretty well, considering all the challenges and the barriers that they were up against in terms of PSR and the UEFA rules. So I think the club have done as well as they can in terms of bringing players in, selling players. It would have been nice to get that one more in. I think we all know that we wanted another defender, but we couldn't quite do it because of the financial circumstances. But I still look at that squad and think it's really, really strong. And when Booba and Tyrone Mings come back, you're going to be looking at some good players not even getting on the bench, which is not really a situation Villa have ever been in my lifetime. I just think they've got a lot of variety, a lot of quality players who, perhaps didn't to the full extreme last season have stepped up this season. I just really, really like what I'm seeing. It's a likeable bunch of players, isn't it? It's the best manager we've ever had in our lifetime. And I've got high hopes this season. I don't see any reason why we can't be up towards the top of the Premier League. And I don't see any reason why we can't venture into the knockouts of the Champions League either. I think we are that good. So overall, I'm just really, really excited at what's to come.
Yeah, and what do you make of the mentality shift as well of the team? We've sort of seen it evolve over the last nearly 24 months now, isn't it, under Unai? Especially the last couple of weeks with the Everton and the Wolves result. The comeback kings as we've been anointed. How do you feel about that mentality shift? And how important do you think that is going forward with obviously the Champions League now and the Premier League and our focus on those and trying to manage those two tournaments as much as we can?
Yeah, I think the start of the season has been interesting because there could have been a little hangover from the end of last season. Obviously, we did kind of limp over the finish line in the end, and everyone was jubilant at qualifying for the Champions League, and we fully deserved it based on what we did in the first 2/3 of the season anyway. But there could have been a bit of a hangover because we did lose games and we did struggle towards the back end of the season. But I think what Emery's done really well is he's kind of almost hit the reset button. The squad feels quite fresh, despite the fact that I think we've only got 4 new first team players in the mix because a lot of the players we brought in went on loan. But I just think it feels like a different Villa, even to last season. You referenced that the comebacks in the last couple of games. It does just feel like there has been that mentality shift. I think we operate and behave like a really, really big club on the pitch, and you sit at the games, and I've sat there for the last 2 weeks in the home games, and even though we've been behind, I haven't been massively worried. I think I was more so worried in the Wolves game than I was in the Everton game. But you always just get the feeling that once we get one, we'll get more. And it would be nice to keep clean sheets, but the attacking quality we have on the pitch now and the amount of goals there is in this team, you'd back us to win most weeks, especially at home. So, like I said before, I just think it's really, really exciting, and just full respect to Emery for what he's doing, because the bloke has transformed the football club.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, and yeah, we'll do a more thematic review of Villa, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, excellent so far. The Wolves game, it personified that, really, didn't it? In the way that we came back and the way we really blew them apart in that last 20 minutes or so, and just sort of went into third, fourth gear and bulldozed them, really. I couldn't manage to go to the game. I watched it unfortunately it was my daughter's birthday, so I watched it like a true dad on my phone during a birthday party. But yeah, no, you could sense, I don't know what it was like in the ground, but you could sense, I think first half obviously was not great, but the second half, I think probably from sort of the 55th, 60th minute, you could sense it was inevitable almost, I think. I don't know if you felt the same, but you felt a bit like the Everton game. You felt like, it just takes one goal and then we'll just finish them off. We had that. We just needed sort of 5-10 minute spell because we've got goals in us, and I think that is the biggest difference for me. Is that, as you say, we're behaving like a big team. It's what the Man Cities do. It's what Liverpool's do. It's what Arsenal do. They, even if they're not playing well, they can just turn it on and just get that result in a short amount of time within a game, and we did that. So looking forward to the Ipswich game. An interesting opposition, a pretty good run actually, a run of games apart from the Arsenal game. Apart from the Man United game and Bayern Munich game, obviously a pretty good run coming up in terms of points that we can potentially pick up, starting with Ipswich away. What have you made of Ipswich so far this season and their start to the season? Obviously unbeaten, but without a win.
Obviously, the first two games, Liverpool and City, that's a tough start, isn't it? And I think there was things that they could take away from both of those games. So the first game against Liverpool, I watched that game. I watched 90 minutes. I think first half they were really, really good, but on an hour they kind of ran out of steam. I think they'd gone full tilt in that first hour, and Liverpool picked them off. City, obviously, they ended up going 1-0 up and got pegged back pretty quickly. That's what Manchester City can do. But I think there was positives to take from both those games. They picked up 3 draws since Southampton, Fulham, and Brighton. I think it was.
Yeah. So that's what I meant by unbeaten. Sorry, unbeaten.
Yeah, they're on a mini unbeaten run out, aren't they? Aren't they at the moment? I think the true barometer of where they are, I think, was probably that Brighton game. That's a good result away from home. Teams have struggled against Brighton this season. To keep a clean sheet against them isn't easy. And I think maybe some of the other newly promoted sides, both this season and last season, they defensively and the way they play, they've not shown that they can grind out results when's needed, don't keep many clean sheets. I think the fact that Ipswich went there and kept a clean sheet bodes well, and I do think they've got a couple of useful players in their defence. I think as the season goes on, they'll click going forward. I think they've got some good players up top and on the wings, and I think they've got a really, really good manager as well. So I do think this will be a tough game. Their home games are obviously going to be massive. They've had some difficult games at Portman Road already. I don't think they'll be looking at this one as one where they think they're going to win, but I think it may be closer than some people will think, because I do think they're a good outfit, and I do think they'll stay up as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that probably sums up my thoughts as well. I've been listening to a few preview pods with Ipswich fans as well, and they're very respectful of Villa, and it's quite a measure of where we are as a club. That the way that they view Villa now, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, or even when the Championship, was completely different. Obviously, they're a bit petrified, really, of Villa in terms of they think they're going to get bulldozed. But obviously, as a football fan, you have to have that little hope that maybe there's a red card, a dodgy penalty, or something happens, goes your way. Plus, you've got the home crowd with them as well. This is how. So I'll just show you how Ipswich lined up in the last game. We could talk about a couple of their players as well, because I'm quite interested in their team. I think there's some real potential there, and they've got the makings of a decent team and some players that Yeah, I quite like. I don't know if you can see. Can you see that, Dan?
Yeah,
That
I've
come
got
up
it.
on your screen? Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So obviously, Leif Davis is, was a big player for them last season at left back. They sort of played in that lopsided way that we do, with the left back basically pushing right forward, and being one of the main creative outlets. He obviously hasn't been allowed to do that this season as much, coming up against the likes of Mo Salah and players like that. He's obviously been pushed back a little bit. How important do you think he is to their setup and their ability to get points on the board?
Yeah, he's a good player. I think you're right in that some games he's obviously not had the license to go forward like he will have done in the EFL. But against Southampton at the weekend, he did get forward. He did nearly score as well at one point in the first half from a cross arriving late at the back post. So he's a key man for them because he's their dead ball specialist, and like you say, he offers that width from the left hand side. And then Schmodix, I find the Schmodix playing on the left and Amari Hutchinson playing as a 10 quite interesting, because that wasn't how they started the season off. But a bit like Villa, you've got a marauding left back. You can have someone on the left kind of playing as a number 10, and Schmodix will do that, which means Hutchinson is probably acting a little bit like Diaby did for Villa last season, playing as a number 10, but he isn't actually really a number 10, and he's got that kind of license to drift where he needs to go. And Twanzebe will tuck in and make a back three for Ipswich as well, a player we of course know well. Jacob Greaves is a good signing, cost a lot of money from Hull, but I think he is a Premier League player and will go far in the Premier League as well. But there's no doubt that Leif Davis, he was a massive player for them last season in terms of what he did. And perhaps Villa, I don't think Villa have got a weakness, but the right back's the position that's been in flux a little bit this season because of Cash's injury. I know he's back in training now, but Villa have had a lot of different players playing at right back, so Ipswich might look at that as an avenue for success.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, I think you mentioned a couple of names there. Obviously, Tuanzebe. I think his song actually started in the Ipswich away game. I don't know if that's true, but I'm pretty sure in the Championship that's where his song started from. But so quite apt he's playing for Ipswich, and where he's back playing against us. Greaves as well, you mentioned. Really looks a really good player. Left-footed English centre back. There's not many of them around, is there? So. He's obviously one for the future. And you mentioned Hutchinson, who is their main danger man, and a sort of change in position. But what I'm interested in is this guy here, Liam Delap. I really like him. I don't know what you. I'm going to stop sharing now so we can get back to seeing us in full screen. But I don't know what you make of him. But I think he's got the makings of a really, really good player. I know obviously he's Man City, Rory Delap's son, and all that kind of stuff. But I've seen him play. And obviously, physicality-wise, he's made for the Premier League. In terms of quality, I'm not 100% sure, but I think he looks like a really good player.
It's Fulham. He scored that really good goal against, isn't it? Where he lashed one in from range. Like I say, I've only seen 90 minutes of Ipswich so far this season, but in that first half against Liverpool, he kind of did things that you would want a centre forward, who's probably going to be a team who's battling at the bottom end. He did kind of all the things that you would want a centre forward to do in that kind of game. He ran the channels when he needed to. He dropped deep and picked up the ball and held up the ball when he needed to as well. He's quite direct. I quite liked that he could in that game. When strikers stop then start. Watkins is good at that, where they slow down and then they go again, and it causes defenders problems. Kind of catches the defender off balance. I saw elements of that from his game in that first game of the season. So I think they've given themselves a couple of different options in terms of attack this season, which I think they actually had a good transfer window. But Delap will be the main striker through the season, and he's off the mark early, which will help. He'll be keen to score again as soon as possible. But I think he's a player, for a bottom half Premier League team, and it's the kind of striker that you would want, especially for a newly promoted side as well. I think out of all the strikers from the newly promoted teams, you look at Southampton, for example, they're going to be playing with Archer up top. I think in games where you're going to be in a fight, games might be narrow, there might be tight, fine margins. Archer's a better finisher and probably a better all-round goal scorer. But I think Delap will give you that bit more.
Yeah. And they've got there's a Hurst, I think, is their other striker.
He's done well in the EFL previously.
He's done well in the EFL, and I think he's back fit now as well because he was injured for a bit. So, I think we should win, obviously, and we're obviously in terms of quality. If we're good on our day, they're good, and they're good on the day. We should win 9 times out of 10. But you never know. They've got some players that can hurt us. Looking at Villa, then obviously had the Wickham game in the midweek, much changed side, but gave some good minutes to players. Wasn't the best performance, but we're in the hat. That's the main thing. Do you think there'll be any sort of mixing up the team. Sorry, obviously McGinn's out, but Cash may or may not be back in. Do you think there'll be any changes?
Yeah, I think Bailey will come in for McGinn. He got some minutes in the tank in midweek, which was important. I wouldn't overly read too much into the Carabao Cup game. I think it was more about giving players minutes that needed it and giving players experience that perhaps are going to form part of the 20-man squad at times this season, but aren't going to start. But it gives them experience and shows that it's worth keeping them around rather than them going out on loan. There's a couple of three interesting areas. Yeah, probably the one week where I'm not sure what we'll do, especially with the Bayern game looming large on Wednesday as well. Defence, Carlos limped out the warm-up, didn't he? Obviously played the last Premier League game. Is Bogart going to come back in? Is Nedeljkovic going to play right back? Is Cash going to play right back? If he's fit, Emery hasn't done his press conference yet, so we don't know. I'd be keen to see Konsa and Powell come back together as a centre-half pairing, to be honest, and then someone else come in at right back. Barkley starting wouldn't be a massive surprise to me in this game, either for Tielemans or Onana, just because of the game coming on Wednesday. And I know it's early in the season, but there will be rotation. And, I think that midfield area, when Kamara's back as well, that's a central midfield is an area where Villa are very, very strong, and it will be a case of mixing it up game in, game out. I've just got a sneaky feeling it will be Tielemans and Barkley, and then Tielemans and Onana on Wednesday. Just got a sneaky feeling for that based on a hunch, not based on anything concrete at all. And then obviously the big question is John Duran. Because again, you can see an argument for Duran starting this game and Watkins being saved for Wednesday. With Ollie Watkins is so durable, wants to play every game. He's in a good run of form as well, scoring in the last couple of games. So Emery's got some selection headaches and some selection problems, but the ones up top in particular, it's a nice problem to have. And the Duran debate's really, really interesting because Emery isn't going to switch up his system and play two up front. I don't think, that goes against the principles of how he wants his team to play, playing with two up front. I think it's too early on in the season to see that, and maybe not in this game. And there's also just an argument for Duran's been so good off the bench. Why would you change it? But the lad can't really do any more to get in the team, can he? And like I said, with that game looming on Wednesday, you just never know. Maybe Duran might start this one.
Yeah. I think it's a fair shot. I especially like the shout of Barkley and Tielemans. I think that potentially could happen. And I kind of agree with you that one. I think obviously Bailey will come in. I think Ipswich they're not like a Southampton or a Burnley last season. I think they're a bit more adaptable in terms of how they play. So they won't necessarily try and play the same way as they did in the Championship. So I think you could see them being trying to be a bit more resolute and try and, actually maybe first 20 minutes though with the crowd they might go at it, but then after that they may sort of sit back a little bit, and then maybe having Barkley and Tielemans as the two might help in that situation. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. What's your before we go into the trivia bit? What's your prediction?
I mean, I'm not going to predict a clean sheet because I just seem to elude us in domestic football. We couldn't even keep one on Tuesday, could we? We win the whole game, and then we conceded right at the end. I'll go for 2-1 to Villa. Wouldn't surprise me if we went 1-0 down again, like you say, if Ipswich come out and play fast. Maybe that they'll be looking at set pieces and things like that. It wouldn't surprise me if we went 1-0 down. But what I like about this team is they go 1-0 down, but they've got so many players who just take responsibility. And the big moment for me in that Wolves game was that second goal in Tielemans, whipping that ball in. It came from him taking responsibility, wanting to be on the ball, wanting to make something happen. And I think he's obviously been our best player for me so far this season. But we've got players who I just think now they've got the right mentality and they will take responsibility when it's needed. And I just think, we should be too strong for them because I just think there's goals in this team, and I think they'll struggle to keep us out.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And my prediction was 3-1. So similar to yours, I think we'll have more than enough, but obviously won't keep a clean sheet. Unfortunately, I just don't see it.
Not for us, clean sheet.
No, we don't do that. We don't do that. I think Claudia had a chance of UFOs. I hope we take the game to just put them to bed early. Yeah, I mean that's the hope. I think the first 20 minutes will be key. I think Unai will be conscious that it's at Portman Road. They're going to want to try and attack us for that first sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes and just keep them at bay a little bit, and then after that, just play our normal game, and that'll be enough.
We haven't got a massive sample size away from home at the moment to really judge us on either, have we? Like the West Ham game, we were brilliant, I thought, and then the Leicester game was a different type of win. I think this one would probably be a bit more like the Leicester game than the West Ham game, is my feeling.
Neil reckons Rodgers will break his duck. Deserves a goal, doesn't he?
It's the only thing missing, isn't it, really?
Yeah. I think I'm with you, Neil. I think that will happen. So 3-1, 2-1. There's our predictions for this week. Let's move on then. We've got a couple of minutes left. Let's do the Villa Vault. Right. So the Villa Vault, Dan. I don't know if you know what it is, but we pick a previous encounter between the two sides, and then ask a few questions around things like goal scorer, lineups, things like that, and just memories of the game.
It might be a struggle. Big gap between when we played them, isn't it?
Yeah. We obviously played in Championship. Yeah, we played in Championship, obviously, but I'm going back to the Premier League. I mean, I was going to go to the last away game at Portman Road, but it was 0-0, so I thought that's going to be a bit pointless. So maybe we'll just talk about that. So we're doing the home game in 2001.
Okay.
Is it 2001? Yeah, it's 2001. It is 17th of December 2001. Do you remember the score? It's going to be a tough one.
So this was
It's last time they were in Premier.
It wasn't the first season they came. I remember that game. So that was when Nillis got injured, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, they were pretty. So they obviously had a really good time in the Premier League for a couple of years, and what was his name? Craig something, was it? Or I can't remember his name now. It escaped me. But they're Marcus Stewart and players like that. And he was obviously doing really well, and they finished like 6th or 7th and got into Europe. This is when
they finished 5th.
They finished 5th. Yeah, they might have been. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So this is when they're on the way down. This is their relegation season. So 2001.
I don't recall this game at all. Which is actually is a bit strange for me. I've got. So when was it? December. So it'd have been John Gregory.
December 2001. Yeah.
So it'd have been John Gregory was manager. What's the question? Have you asked me a question? I don't even know if you asked me a question.
I said, what was the score?
I haven't got a clue, you know. I'll just have a stab. I know they won 2-1 the season before.
Ooh.
2-1 again?
Yes.
It was
2-1. It was 2-1, yeah. It was 2-1. Yeah, correct. 2-1. Who was the goal scorer? It was I'm giving it away there. It's one goal scorer, got 2 goals. So who are you going to go for?
In that time, that season.
So I think this was a season where we wore that all sort of wasn't really claret purplish type kit.
I'll have to have a stab at Angel because he scored a lot of goals that season.
Correct. He scored 2 goals. Yeah. He scored both goals. There
twice.
Yeah. Very well done. Let's go. And for them, Finidi George scored.
Okay.
If you remember that. Finidi George.
He was like someone who would have been on computer games and stuff when I was a.
Yeah. Finidi George was a quality player.
Team. Yeah.
Good player. So let's just try and get their lineup quickly then. So can you name the goalkeeper for Villa? That should be easy because that was a year.
Schmeichel.
Yes, it was. Yeah, Schmeichel. Yeah,
wasn't very good though, was he, for us?
Yeah, and then the back 4 should be able to get at least 3 of these.
Malberg will be in there.
Malberg's in there.
I've got a feeling Alpay got injured that season, so I'll say Staunton.
Staunton, yeah.
Delaney.
No,
not Delaney. J Lloyd.
J Lloyd, yeah. J Lloyd played right back. Right, left back, yeah. Midfield.
Delaney.
Yeah. Midfield.
He's 4-4-2, wasn't he, back then?
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
So, Hadji?
No, good guess, but no.
Merson
was up front with Angel.
Okay. Boateng,
yes.
Hendry,
yes.
What's that? Hassan Cashlaw? I've said Hadji and it wasn't him, so surely Cashlaw was in there.
Cashlaw's a good shout because obviously Hadji Cashlaw were the signings of that season, but no, it wasn't. It was
Tyler.
Stone, yes. And who did you say? So you said Boateng, you said Hendry, you said Stone. Another player who obviously most appearances for Villa in the Premier League.
Gareth Barry.
Yes. There we go. That's the 11.
He dropped out of the team at that point because Gregory wasn't fancying him for some reason. And
Yeah,
then
so
Graham Taylor came in, didn't he? Put him back in.
Yeah. So Barry was in the team.
No Vassell.
Vassell came on for Angel in the second half. And on the bench, we had Peter Enkelman, Jonathan Bewers, and Bosco Balaban.
Bosco Balaban. Where's Dion? Dion there as well.
Dion, sorry. Dion came on for Lee Hendry as well.
I mean, bizarrely, I can tell you Jonathan Bewers is squad number. I can tell you.
Go on then.
He's 30.
No, he was 30. He was. He did. You don't know. He wasn't 30 here, but he was. He was 30 before then. It changed this year. 25.
25.
He was 30 though. I do remember that. He was 30.
Has confidence there as well.
One because doesn't remember the game. You've done well there. You've hardly got anything wrong there.
Literally no memory of that game whatsoever. So
a big hot topic at the moment is attendances and ticket prices and stuff like that. What was the attendance in this game?
I don't even know what Portman Road holds. I guess around 28.
This is Villa Park.
Oh, was this Villa Park? I was doing this. It was Portman Road. Jeez, no. I'm trying to think back at a game of.
No. So I said at the beginning. So the Portman Road game was 0-0. So I decided not to use that one because it's pointless.
Talk about the last time we played them was 0-0.
No.
33.
29,320.
Yeah, it wasn't as it was easy to get tickets in those days. Certainly easier.
Yeah, easier, but
very low crowds cheaper as well.
Even I've noticed actually because we've done this Villa Vault. Even when we were doing well under Gregory, Little, etc., the attendances were.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like the football. I remember getting into some arguments with people that sat around me when I was a kid, defending John Gregory because he's one of my heroes.
As a kid, fair play, mate.
Yeah,
fair play, getting involved.
Getting some rucks. I don't do that now, but I used to do it.
You just do it. Just do it.
I just used to be really defensive of John Gregory, and I remember there was a group of fans that sat near me. We were top of the league, and they were holding Gregory out banners because they didn't like his football. And I was thinking, we're top of the league. Like, what can you
really?
What more can you do? It was that. It must have been that season as well. Yeah. And every time we conceded a late goal, they'd start turning and get the Gregory out banners out. No, I didn't like that as a kid, and I was more for a scrap when I was like 15, 16.
Yeah.
Than I am
now you just use the keyboard, mate.
Nah, keyboard warrior now, yeah.
Now, fair play. I didn't realize that. Obviously, I remember the Gregory days. I used to probably go to like 4 or 5 games a season then. I wasn't a season ticket holder then, so maybe I didn't see it, but I just remember those days like under Little, even Ron Atkinson and Gregory. We used to play with that sort of 3-5-2. Well, before Gregory actually, but 3-5-2 formation, and everyone used to clap when Alan Wright used to get the ball shifted across to him, and it was just like, I don't know, just a different way of playing compared to all the other teams, and it used to work quite well. Yeah.
Ahead of its time, that was that.
Ahead of its time.
Formation was, yeah.
My
first game was Ipswich at home.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw you tweet about your first goal.
93.
Yeah, my first game was Norwich at home, 0-0.
East Anglian feel to it.
Yeah.
I've thought for my whole life until yesterday that Dean Saunders scored the first goal I ever saw at Villa Park, but he didn't. He scored the second. Dwight York scored a diving header first. So I've thought all these years, I've even met Dean Saunders and said to him, "You scored the first goal I ever saw at Villa Park," but he didn't. Dwight York did.
Oh really? I don't know.
Realised yesterday.
I don't know who scored the first. I think I think Stuart Pearce scored the first ever goal I saw at Villa Park.
Really?
For Nottingham Forest.
That would have been like 96. Was that 96?
It might be 94. I went 94 is when I went to the Norwich game.
We were in 95. I think we drew 1-1.
95. Yeah,
Andy Townsend scored.
I think so, yeah.
I
can't remember. I remember the first game, but I don't remember who was the first one to score. But anyway, thanks, Dan. Thank you for your time. I know you got to go get your Barnet sorted now, and get the Barnet cut. Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I know it's last minute, but really good to chat to you, mate, as ever. And quite impressed with your knowledge of that game, considering you didn't realise which game it was. So well done.
I can always put the pieces together if I need to. I'm to be honest, I'm devastated about getting that squad number wrong. That's going to haunt me for weeks. I won't sleep tonight after that.
Well, maybe it's wrong on here. It's on the ESPN website.
Right. I think you're right. I just had a vision of him being 30. He was 30, and then he changed to 25.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Dan again for joining us. We'll be back post the Ipswich game, hopefully discussing another win. Probably be back post Bayern game as well. So we'll try and get 2 in 1. If I can get a preview in before then, I will try. But thank you. Please do subscribe, like, follow us on whatever podcast platform you're on. comment in the comments. Just engage with the podcast. As I said, we're trying to grow it again after a long break. But yeah, we'll build it back up slowly but surely. But thank you again, and up the Villa.
Up the Villa.